I promise that this thing is not as heavy as it looks because I'm like 7 bananas tall and that is already pretty generous. But hey, you guys are not here for me. Today, we are here for...
This is the Creality high. And yes, I did get the lights just for this scene, so... Anyways, just for your information, I did bought the whole combo myself, and this video is definitely not sponsored by any means. My first ever machine was a P1S, and I absolutely love it.
What the hell?
In fact, I love it so much so that I am trying to get it a new friend. So now you might ask, why not something like the A1? Well, let's just say that I value my house more. So, because of that, I'm looking into other options. And honestly, I'm glad I did it, because this machine is simply impressive. Grab a box cutter, cut it open, do some actual unboxing, pull things out, out, and out. After all of that, this is what we are left with. Full transition, eh? And that also, yes. But anyways, it really surprised me to see how easy it was to actually put this whole thing together. All I did was put in the gantry onto the base, get the screws, connect them together. Now, plug in the cables, cover them up, and finally, grab the patch cord, plug it in, and that's it. Now, to start printing, just snap in this spool holder, connect the PTFE tube, then just power the printer on, and we are ready to go. In all of my reviews, I will focus on the 4 following aspects: the spec, the print quality, how convenient is it to use a printer, and finally, the brand. From there, we'll discuss about the pros, the cons, and whether you should or should not get the machine. And at the end of the video, I will also answer the question of, would I buy it again? The high body is made from die-cast aluminum, so it has this really cool industrial look into it that definitely stands out from the more common minimalist design of other machines. And also because of the metal frame, the machine is super rigid. I mean, just listen to this. This thing is literally built like a tank. And that is super important to the quality of our print because this stiffness really helps a lot in avoiding ghosting at higher speed printing. About the build volume, it comes in at a healthy 2CD by 2CD by 300, which means it has a 20.9% larger build volume compared to the A1, or 17.6% larger compared to the Spark X i7, and a whopping 67.6% increase from the Ender 3 V3 SE. Most of the additional build volume of the highs came from the Z-axis, and that's really nice. But I also want to add that it doesn't really make any sense to print anything that tall on a mesh slinger, because the print quality is going to deteriorate pretty quickly unless you decide to print really slowly. About the touch interface, the high has a 3.2 inch screen with a Clippery style UI, and I don't really have much to say about it because this kind of interface is pretty much the standard now. The screen feels responsive, the display quality is decent, the settings are intuitive enough, and it can also be rotated and folded in or out based on your need. If you are coming from a Bambu Lab A1 or a P1 like I do, the camera is definitely a step up. The resolution is still somewhat the same, but the frame rate is much more usable now. However, remember, the keyword is usable. It is definitely functional for checking on print, but you really shouldn't expect any beautiful time lapses from it. Take a look inside the toolhead. The machine uses a direct drive setup, and the stock nozzle is a 0.4 unicorn nozzle, the same one on the K2 series. So after the box, the printer is ready to print abrasive materials. Other than that, everything else is pretty much the standard: auto bed leveling, input shaping, RFID reader in case you use Creality filament, and an included filament runout sensor. While printing, the nozzle can heat up to 300 degrees Celsius. The bed can maintain a maximum temperature of 100 degrees. Both are identical to the P1S. The printer is capable of a maximum print speed of 500 mm per second. But, however, the actual print speed is obviously going to be lower, and it's not like I'm going to let my P1S print at that speed anyways. But how does it actually perform? I mean, all the things I just said would all means nothing if the final product is going to be bad. First off, the first layer test. The High actually produced the best first layer I've ever seen. There were virtually no gaps or any obvious defects, only some really minimal over-extrusion in some areas. This showed that the auto-benevoling function works exceptionally well. Next, inside Creality, I'm going to slice up a Benchy. The Benchy came out looking average with no obvious defects. There were no issues with the cooling or stringing. However, when taking a closer look and under a literal spotlight, the surface of the hole is not perfectly smooth. This might be caused by some slight over-extrusion and should be fixed easily with some calibration.
But just to be fair, this is how it's going to look like under normal light condition.
Recently, I've been binge-watching Smiling Friends and I've been enjoying every second of it. So for my next test print, I'm going to slice up a model of the Mr. Frog. All I can say is,
Hello, I'm Mr. Frog and I approve this message. No, I don't. I hate you. Fuck you.
man, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. After some calibration, the over-extrusion is completely gone now, and the surface is actually looking pretty good. But you might already notice there's some problem with sagging, suggesting that the cooling could be cranked up a little bit. And this is also one of the problems I have with the High. I'm not saying that the part cooling fan is not strong enough, but I'm talking about the amounts of available filament presets for this machine. And we are going to discuss more about it at the end of the video where I talk about the pros and the cons. So now, what about multicolor printing? How does it actually perform there? Keeping up with the Smiling Friends theme, I printed out these guys. And I just can't get over how perfect they all look, especially glare. In this kind of flat print, you can really see how the auto-benevoling plays out, and in this case, I can honestly give it a solid 10 out of 10. Okay, but that's just some really basic multicolor prints. What about one that is actually time-consuming with hundreds of filament changes? Damn. This thing took almost 25 hours and a total of 630 color changes. Still, the Pikachu came out looking beautiful, the surface is smooth, and the machine really did a good job with the overhang down here. But if you look closely, you can see that there are some color bleeds when the printer is switching from black to yellow. But the only real complaint I have is the amount of purge. I would never be able to fathom the idea of buying a spool of filament just to throw half of it away. Anyway, since we are talking about multicolor printing, let's also talk about the CFS. I actually like it. The CFS is Creality filament switching system, and it does feel like the people who designed this thing, they actually use it. For example, right there, you can see these stoppers that are used for preventing almost empty filament spools from jumping up and down, built-in desk holder slots, and LEDs that is going to keep blinking to show you which filament is currently being used. And it is also maintenance friendly. All of the molded tubes underneath the CFS are completely exposed. So in case of inevitably filament jam or breaking, taking the whole thing apart will be less of a nightmare. And unlike most MMUs, you can actually see right here that the filaments will enter the CFS through these PTAV tubes instead of built-in input slots like on the AMS, ACE, GD-Box, or whatever everyone's coming up with. But the point is, that is going to give the filament a much easier travel path right from the start. On top of that, there's also a thermal and hygrometer to have you keep an eye on the environment inside. But most importantly, it just works. I can feel safe enough to go to bed while letting both the machine and the CFS run through the night.
But yeah, my only complaint with the CFS would be this.
The top of the CFS is not flat, so it is not stackable by default, which really sucks in case you want to wire up multiple CFS, allowing you to print at a maximum of 16 filaments at the same time. So overall, the CFS is great. It is packed with a lot of features, and at least in my case, it has been running just fine. But still, it would benefit a lot just from a small design change, making the top flat. Next, let's talk about the slicer. Creality machines come with this, and it is basically a reskinned version of Orca slicer. And they took that whole reskinning thing seriously, because for some reason, they decided to just flip the entire interface vertically. And one thing I found especially annoying is all the settings are now displayed in icons only, so it does make it a bit difficult to figure out which is which. Other than that though, it is perfectly usable, mostly because at the end of the day, it is still Orca. And since we are talking about the software side, what really surprised me was the mobile app. Not only can you size and set print directly from your phone, but you can also tweak a lot more settings than I expected. I would even say that it offers about 70% of what you get on the desktop version. And obviously, just like any other apps, you can still access the camera to check on prints remotely. So yeah, the whole Creality Cloud thing is really convenient and it might come in handy in multiple cases. But the thing is, it is completely optional. You can just connect the Hive to your local Wi-Fi network and leave everything there. And if even that is not enough, there's also a USB port in case you want to keep the printer completely offline. Now let's start with the pros. The Hive, despite having a somewhat intimidating look, it is actually super beginner friendly. You can probably have this machine up and start printing in about 30 minutes. Creality actually did a really good job providing the documentation for this machine. They are really detailed and they also have a bunch of videos guiding you through all kind of different processes. So overall, I really do think that the Hive is an excellent machine. It has a really great build quality and the frame in particular is one of the best I've seen in its price range. As for the specs and features, they are pretty much in line with what you would expect from a modern 3D printer. And at this point, I have put in about 150 hours on this machine. During this whole testing period, most of the prints produced by the Hive all came out similarly, with clean surface, good overhang, minimum streaking, and somehow a perfect first layer every single time. The same with multicolor and multi-filament prints. The Hive and the CFS have been surprisingly reliable. Now, onto the cons. So I mainly print in PETG, and if you're anything like me, you already know it can be pretty annoying at times. When I first got my P1S, PETG would constantly stick to the side of the nozzle, because the filament itself is sticky, but mostly, the stock nozzle wiper on the machine was just bad. So swapping it out for an A1 silicone wiper completely fixed that issues. And I'm pretty sure the Hive also has the same problem, so I'm planning to swap in a new nozzle wiper here as well. But PLA, on the other hand, will print without any issues. Another complaint is the auto bed leveling. If you have it enabled before a print, it will take a good 10 minutes for the machine to actually start printing, because for some reason, it always performs a full bed leveling instead of just the printing area. But beyond that, there are only some minor inconveniences, like, for example, the 2-head cover is held on by these 2 screws instead of simply snapping off. And the quick swap unicorn nozzle is not really that kind of quick swap, when you can just simply slide it out and throw in a new one. Also, maintenance might be a bit difficult here on the Hive, because you can kinda see why. And honestly, that's about it. I will never shy away from criticizing a product, but this, it is one of the rare cases where most of the real problems do not even come from the printer itself. For example, the slicer works well with the stock 0.4 nozzle. It comes with a lot of filament profiles that you can just pick and start printing. But if you switch to a 0.2, 0.6 or 0.8 nozzle, that is where things start to fall apart. Because unlike on the Bamboo Lab A1, which has plenty of filament profiles for all of those nozzle sizes, the Hive has very few available. Which means, if you're not using a 0.4 nozzle, you will end up having to create or tweak a lot of profiles by yourself. One more thing, my Hive has been running amazingly right out of the box. But when I first opened it, I was greeted by a scratched build plate that looked like it had accidentally been repackaged instead of a brand new one. So I reached out to customer support, and to their credit, they did send me a new build plate pretty quickly, which I appreciate, but still, how does something like this even happen in the first place? And I'm not just gonna stop there. Creality, you guys are pumping out newer machines too fast. Like at this point of recording, the K3 along with their KTEX system are already official. And that thing, I don't even know what that is. And just from the look of the Hive from the Creality store, it looks like it is already getting phased out. And honestly, I think that's such a shame, because in my opinion, the Hive is really underrated for what it is. For about the same price of the A1 combo, you get better hardware, a significantly larger build volume, and an enclosed and expandable multicolor system. Most importantly, it is not simply a Bamboo Lab A1 clone. It already showed that it can be a reliable machine without copying everything from the A1. And whether you are a hobbyist, a tinkerer, or someone who just wants to print things, the Hive has something for you. So, to answer the question, yes, I would probably buy this machine again if I could. I'm really happy with it. I mean, apart from all the quality control issues, which is not even the printer fault. But anyways, it is an excellent plug and play 3D printer, and at least in my case, it has been pretty reliable. So if you enjoyed the video, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a like and a subscribe. It helps keep the channel running and allows me to keep making videos like this. But either way, just have a good day. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.